Hello, everyone. You're with Corrine Rayson from the Crew Coach on the Wellbeing Project. Welcome to Yachting International Radio. And today I'm very excited to introduce you to Jen Adams, because this is probably the first guest that I've spoken to where I'm like, no ways, what? That's amazing. That's so interesting. So Jen, welcome. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about who you are, your background, and how you serve the community.
Okay, so my name is Jen Adams. I'm a registered nutritional therapist, which is a bit of a posh title, really, because I'm more of a therapist and a coach rather than a nutritionist by kind of trade. I really enjoy converting what I've learned in the classroom into reality. So I spend a lot of my time helping clients kind of learn about how the nutrition is affecting their current lives. I also run a skin clinic that sort of runs alongside the nutrition. There's a long story how I got into skin in relation to the body, but the two work really well together. So a bit like yourself, really, I'm just coming back to work and I'm just starting this week to do actual skin treatments, so anti-aging type skin treatments. But this is my passion. I love talking to people about understanding how their food impacts their lives, because we all deserve to look in the mirror and like what we see and be happy with ourselves. So that's the sort of my approach.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. So with our yachting industry, you're working very, very long hours and you spent, ironically, a lot of time indoors rather than outdoors. So you might not get that vitamin D. I know a colleague of mine who I was working with 10 years ago, she actually suffered from skin problems and they were trying to work out what it is. They took the blood samples to get analyzed. And I think one of the options that came up was the air conditioning that you are subjected to, that recycled air. But living in a fast-paced environment where you're always on the go, we have something in the crew mess called a snack cupboard. So you probably have your sugary bars and your naughties that you can go to give you that little boost of energy to keep going. So I would love to hear, I don't know if you've worked with any clientele from the industry, but I'm sure there's other industries that are very similar. But if you don't mind sharing some insights around how that can impact our body and our mental health.
Yeah, so the overall summary is massive. And it's very difficult because we get very much to we fall very much, into this very hand to mouth type way of eating. And it's like, I am tired now, therefore I need to have an instant hit. Now, the downside with that is that, as you know, after every high, there is a low. And what happens is these instant snacks and treats and these high sugary based foods will raise your blood sugars high. So it gives you this lift, but unfortunately to sustain it is pretty impossible. So what happens is there's a whole cascade, let's say, of hormones that will help to manage this balance, because your body works on negative feedback loops, but also likes homeostasis. Okay, so if you think, I'm thinking of your team, when you're explaining who you serve, it was about, I'd got this sort of swan type effect in my head, that there's this sort of calmness at the top, but underneath it's kind of a bit like chaos going on. And the body will work like that for quite a long period of time. It will take you where it wants you to go, if that makes sense. But the consequences are like a tailwind in the background. So when you're fatigued, your body is saying to you, I haven't had enough energy, I'm struggling, okay? And what we do is we then sort of, in theory, give it too much because of the high sugary foods. And because it's then too much, what you're asking your body is to do even more to try and balance your blood sugars. So what happens is eventually when you do rest and your day is complete, let's say, you literally crash. You'll just crash and burn. And then throughout that evening, for example, when you want to rest and repair and kind of get ready and, you know, reflect for the next day ahead, your body is just like, yeah, it just doesn't have the capacity because it's used up all its hormones to get you through the day. So to get you through a good night's sleep, it's kind of ran out. Yeah, it's a bit like, oh, I'm done in. So this can go on for many years, yeah, before the consequences will be seen. And this is the problem. The snack that you have at lunchtime potentially doesn't affect you, especially ladies, really 10, 15, 14 days, 15 days down the line. There's a huge tailwind to what you eat today, to how your body will deal with it later on. So the snack cupboard thing scares me on a nutritional point of view, because again, the quality of the food in that snack cupboard unfortunately means it will be fake food. Yeah. It's manufactured food. And one of the biggest things that the industry, or the manufacturing world of the food industry, has managed to kind of create really is a massive marketing opportunity to just keep you all eating this stuff. Yeah, just constantly eating this stuff. And we've touched on talking about drinks, you know, like energy drinks and things like this. This is all superficial energy that all it will do is raise your blood sugars really, really high, and therefore drop your blood sugars really, really low. And it creates this cascade of low energy, fatigue, and a blood sugar imbalance. And that's how we end up with this feeling. Yeah. So the key thing in nutrition that I talk about a lot is about delivery, or I call it the 4 Ds, kind of trying to make it sound catchy and not too boring. But it's about delivery of the energy into the cell. It's about detoxification, being able to remove toxins. And then deficiency is all about the absorption in the gut. Now, you've all heard about the gut flora and that impacting on our metabolic health. Yeah. This is the path I'm taking you on. This is how we get to, how does your gut flora influence your metabolic health, your mental health? It's this. Yeah, it can't cope with the up and down. And the key point to get across is that the sugar that's in your snacks is not the sugar that you used to see in the Tate and Lyle trucks that were going down the road. This is not that sugar. This sugar is called fructose corn syrup. And fructose corn syrup is transported across the world in massive, massive tankers in liquid form. And fructose corn syrup is about, on average, it ranges on whatever report you read, any clinical study you read, but it ranges between 1.5 times to 10 times sweeter than the sugar that you had as a kid in your tea. So these things that say 10 grams of sugar, or look at me, I'm having a low calorie, low carbohydrate snack. Body will raise the insulin levels based on the sweetness of the food, not based on the number of calories. So what happens is that little simple mouthful is probably 10 times sweeter than you actually need it to be. So you will release hormones at 10 times the amount that you actually need. And these hormones are fat storing hormones. So you can be generating hormones on a Diet Coke and storing it as fat, even though mentally you're telling yourself you're having no calories.
What do you mean by hormones?
So our whole body functions on a communication kind of pathway, and the way the different departments communicate with themselves, so for example, to stimulate our brain, to stimulate function, is all done by hormones. Hormones are messengers to have a conversation from one organ to the next. So it's hormones that will balance your blood sugars. It's hormones, obviously you've got endocrine systems, you've got hormones in your brain, so your serotonin systems and things like tryptophan. So hormones are like doing everything. And when they don't know what to do, or they are misled, let's say, by the sweetness on your tongue, going back to what I was saying earlier, it creates this whole up and down and this huge cascade of long-term issues. So that's what that's all about. Yeah, but the fructose corn syrup is something that really people, not just your industry, the world really needs to get the head round, because it is seriously beyond bad. And the second part to it is aspartame, and aspartame is the sweetener. So if your bar, Franti, if you have if you have a sweet bar, you know, like, I'm getting confused. I want to get across the word healthy drives me insane, right? If you had a cereal bar and you ate it thinking you were being healthy, this contains aspartame and fructose corn syrup. Yeah. So that's why I get bits of like, how do you kind of approach it? Because you'll get people say, well, shall I just have a Mars bar then rather than a cereal bar? Yeah. Well, the reality is, yeah, you may as well. It's a marketing ploy.
How are they allowed to be on our shelves?
Not regulated.
Okay.
So when you talk about snacking and we talk about treat cupboards and things like that, it's really hard to sort of get you from where people are now to where optimally you want to be, because the reality is there should be no cupboard. There's nothing that can go in that cupboard that is healthy. Yeah, because anything in a packet that is manufactured is not food. It's a process of ingredients that have been put together. And anything, if you're looking in a packet and going, what's in this food will send your blood sugars too high and too low. So consequences of what I'm talking about is low energy, poor concentration. The cell, the energy from this food is fake. It cannot get delivered into the cell. The hormones on the outside don't recognize it as real and they keep it out. Your brain says, I've eaten, I need food. Your cells are going, that ain't food. Keeps it away, stores it as fat. Your brain now says, I still haven't had any energy yet. I'll go and get some more.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah? So cells are dead, cells are empty. Energy is here, brain wants more. You're nodding off. You're doing everything you can to shove energy into your cells, but your cells are empty. Kicks that out, stores that as fat. Gain it around the middle, yeah, instantly. That's where we tend to gain fat initially. Then it starts to park it around the back, and then it goes onto your legs if you're female and we have more estrogen levels. So where the body will place the excessive fat is also a key indicator of the hormone that's gone imbalanced. All sounds fine when you're young and you're busy and you're working and all these wonderful things. The problem is when this energy cannot get into this cell, this is called insulin resistance. Okay, so your cells are resistant to the insulin trying to put the energy into the cell. If you ignore insulin resistance for 2 years, you'll end up being pre-diabetic. If you're pre-diabetic for more than 10 years, you'll have diabetes. And diabetes does not come on its own. It comes with a raft of whole of other problems. Okay, so
So you're not born with diabetes. You're not born with it.
There's 2 types. You can be born without the insulin hormone. You can have a pancreatic issue where you have not. So that's type 1. Type 2 is a lifestyle disease. And the stats are phenomenal about this. And it's all since the introduction of fructose corn syrup. So it's something ridiculous, like from the 70s to the 80s. I do a thing in my webinar about this for dieting. It's the dieting industry that has driven this problem. And we've increased in obesity like 2-fold ever since the world started dieting. And it's because of this fake food ingredients or manufactured foods. So to break the cycle, yeah, it's to stop eating foods, you know, that are in packets, and enjoy food in its most natural form. Yes, we've got other issues about fruit. You know, people tend to then eat a load of fruit thinking, oh, well, that's really healthy, but it has another blood sugar problem. But if your guys are busy and you're stressed and we've got all these things going on, the first port of call has to be food in its most natural form. Yeah. There's another level, obviously, that I can then go to about only having 3 meals a day, because I can imagine that's a bit of a nightmare and no chance kind of thing.
In yachting, we do. We have, you eat at 12 o'clock, and I think from memory, it's 6 o'clock. And the chefs are quite good. They put on like the salads. They're supposed to put like the salads, the meats, that, you know, your fundamentals. Some are fantastic, but yeah, they are conscious of that.
So if we have a lack of energy, my question to always ask is, it's not about today, it's what happened 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah, so to break the chain of going to the snack cupboard, it's look at your main meals and to ensure that that main meal is sustainable, you know, and like we're saying, food in its most natural form, so a protein, you know, carbohydrates, and then a lot of leafy green vegetables. So by having a balanced meal within 3 days and doing 3 meals a day for 3 days, that desire to go to that snack cupboard can be gone.
Okay, interesting.
It's easy to get off this stuff, yeah, but you have to be pretty consistent with it. Yeah, it's a drug. Yeah. I'm being a bit too dramatic.
Not at all. Not at all. You're waking us all up to the reality of what we're putting in our bodies. Now, the other thing is palm sugar. There's a lot of talk recently about palm sugar.
Yeah, I mean, anything that's sugar based. So if you're looking at palm sugar based on fructose corn syrup, then I would go palm sugar every time. Because it's potentially a little bit more natural, but it's the same as palm oil. Yeah, it's how is this manufactured and what is the consequences of these things. The issue is you really shouldn't be eating any sugar. You can naturally get sufficient energy from vegetables alone. Okay, you need protein with every meal, but sugars itself, we don't really need. We have enough sugar converted from our vegetables and converted from our protein to give us enough energy. Yes, there's certain, you know, my partner, Steve, bless him, he'll have more of what I would call a starchy carb with a meal than I would. So I would always have just vegetables and say chicken, and he'll sometimes have like butternut squash, or if we're having a curry, he'll have like a chapati. So he needs that because he's a man, which is fair enough, but he doesn't have loads of it. He gets his energy from the protein and the fats and the vegetables, and his starchy carb there is just a little bit of substance for him. Yeah, but in reality, people are eating potatoes and rice and bread and all these things to give them energy, and that energy is not getting into the cell. So it'd be the same with your palm sugar. If it can't get into the cell, it's being stored as fat, and it's creating this up and down blood sugar imbalance, which creates the cravings. Because weirdly, nobody craves kale or celery. Yeah. If you're down and you're hungry, you're not sitting there thinking, ooh, I could just eat a chunk of celery. Yeah. A craving is created from a previous high of a sugar.
Okay. What about salts in diet?
Salt is absolutely fine. Yeah. Because again, if you move away from fake food and you focus on food in its most natural form, you'll naturally have a reasonable balance of salt. The issue with salt in people's diet is the sodium level. So if you've got diabetes and you're continually eating processed food, you've got a fake salt problem as well as a fake sugar problem. So this is how you get hypertension, because your body can't cope with the fluctuating levels of the blood pressure. I know. So it always brings it back to food in its most natural form. If you think, like we said earlier, if you think about what people say to me, oh, my grandma ate this, or my grandma had cake, and smoking, that's a whole nother thing, you know, oh, well, my mum and dad smoked and there's nothing wrong with them. It's because their food was in its most natural form. Oh. Yeah, they didn't have the stresses that we have, but the fundamentals of it was they had meat and 2 veg every day. Their bread was made naturally. You know the difference between a French stick and an English loaf, right? About a week and a half. How do they have what they put in it to give that bread's shelf life is sitting in your body. So the reason they put it in there so it doesn't go off on the shelf is in your body. Yeah. So it's not going to go off in your body either, is it?
No. Well, at least I make homemade bread. That's something I'm doing right.
This is what I'm trying to kind of, but my idea really is just to throw in loads of hand grenades and just kind of pick up the bits that you can, you know, no one's perfect. This isn't about, oh, you must go away and do this. But it is to look at the low-hanging fruit as such, excuse the pun, in our behaviors are being driven by the manufactured food and the marketing of food. And in reality, we just need 3 meals a day, protein with every meal. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I have dark chocolate and I enjoy chocolate. Yes, I enjoy alcohol. You know, I'm not sitting at home hugging a tree and only drinking, you know, ginger and lemon tea. But the reality is, these things, food in their most natural form, is the best way you can get the best from your body. And therefore, then you don't have to take medications for headache. You don't have to take caffeine for a high and a low. Yeah, you don't have to have other medications. I'm trying to think of like anti-inflammatories for aches and pains, because your body will naturally manage all of these issues for you.
Yeah, it's interesting because my partner says he feels amazing when he has 3 veg and meat. He's like, I need it. I haven't had it. Like, I know my body needs it, and I feel amazing when I do have it. Yeah. So it's obviously also listening to your intuition and working out what's right for you and what's not, and not be tempted by that hook, that sugar high that can get us in a vicious cycle. When it comes to eating out, I'm very curious to know, do you have your go-to places? Because maybe places like Thai, they serve Thai food that's like the sauces are sugary and the syrups, and I'm not too sure. Yeah, like,
I mean, I guess you got a lot of chefs amongst you, so you'll know more than me. But yeah, I've learned over the years. I mean, when I first started doing this, it was horrific. Eating out, wasn't as it is today, you know, and it has changed. But no, there's a lot of food I won't eat, and it's because I work too hard, you know, and I haven't got the time for my body to start breaking down on me for the convenience of having that meal. Yeah, it's just not worth it for me. So yes, there are restaurants I go to, and the other real good thing that's happened is the servers these days are a lot more open, where, you know, if I look on a menu, and I tend to eat a lot of fish, because it's in its most natural form. So you can then sort of find what's on the dinner and go, oh, I can see there's a broccoli on that dish, and there's a thing on that dish. Can I have fish with my 2 veg and an extra side salad, and any butter or any things like that? That's all fine. It's all in its natural form. Any of the sauces, for example, I tend to just say, can I have it on the side, just so I can kind of check it out. But yeah, you know, you can easily choose meals. But yeah, I mean, personally, I can't eat a pizza. If I ate a pizza, I'd have stomachache and I'd be asleep in about 3 minutes. So I don't crave a pizza, but my partner loves a pizza, and he'll eat the thin crust. And so it's like you just said, it's working out what's right for you. Because at the end of the day, if you make a pizza that's made from your own flour, this is now where you realize I'm not the chef in my house. If you make your own pizza and you know what's in it because you've made it, there is nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But if you've got it from the frozen section in Sainsbury's and it's 1 of 1,000 exactly, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because what they put in the food to give it shelf life means it sticks to you internally and causes all sorts of cascade of problems. Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with, you know, flour and eggs and water and cheese and tomatoes and things like that. Yes, if you start getting into like your salamis and all these sort of other processed meats perhaps, but again, there's no harm in good quality meat, vegetables, food, you know, all these sorts of things. If you can look at it and work out what it is by just looking at it, enjoy every mouthful.
Okay, but then what about pesticides? We mentioned bread and preservatives, but then the pesticides.
Absolutely. So again, it's about sort of picking your fights, really. Yeah, I mean, it's easier to not eat a snack than it is to start choosing only organic foods. So I tend to encourage you to do what you can and build up to it. Yeah, so when people would perhaps follow a diet that I would give them, I would say your choices of organic are, but the less amount of processed food, the better. And then, yes, you can then start working on improving the quality of your food after that. I'd get rid of the crap first before you worry too much. But absolutely, yeah, it is a thing, but it's like your liver can cope with pesticides in your food, as long as it hasn't had to deal with all these other things.
Okay. And my last question to you is, obviously what we put in our bodies will come out of our bodies. What are the common things that you see? I'm sure like constipation or diarrhea is one of them, or skin issues. What do you see?
Yeah, very much so. So once you've got through the delivery issue, and then your liver's kind of done its thing, so your liver will decide whether to excrete something or whether to store it as fat. Sorry, store it in your fat cells. That's a key thing. So if it doesn't know what to do with it, and it's too toxic, and it doesn't have the amino acids from your food to break it down even further, your liver will store these excessive what we call phthalates, or BHBs or whatever they are, in your food, in your fat cells. Now, more often, what you see over, say, 2 or 3 years of this is you people have oily skin. And it's often where the skin is trying to exfoliate out. It's trying to detoxify out of the skin these plastics, these fake foods, and it struggles. So more often I will see quite a yellowy kind of deep set in the eyes. You can often see it if you look on a Zoom, where you take a photo of yourself with a funny light, you can see the yellowy bits under your eyes. And also if the forehead is a different texture to the rest of your skin, if it's oilier or if it's got more open pores, this to me, I can look at someone and instantly kind of go, right, okay, we've got liver issues. I know. The other one is a lot of people see who have PCOS problems, so endocrine, those sorts of issues with an imbalance of estrogens and progestrogens and testosterone. You'll see sort of spots or acne under here around this area, and they'll have hirsutism as well, which is like a hairier than normal. So this is this insulin resistance I was talking about earlier. So they've lost control of their blood sugars. That's one of those. And then the other key one, linking up with what you're saying about the gut, is if you have pimples here on your forehead, small red pimples here, this to me is a gluten and a dairy sensitivity. So you can often spot it very quickly if they have a gluten sensitivity. Now, gluten sensitivities are becoming more and more popular because most people have a gut dysbiosis, which is where food particles have leaked through the gut and we have an autoimmune response. Yeah, so a lot of people are talking about that. So a lot of people are having dairy intolerances. It's the same theory. The gut can't metabolize the protein that's in these foods, so we get an autoimmune reaction to these. So the key things on the skin, as I say, are pimples here, and that's more for gluten. And dairy is often when you see sensitive skin or eczema, you know, eczema and psoriasis and asthma. If your asthma is getting worse, this is a gluten and a dairy sensitivity going on. So they're the obvious ones. But then coming through the system, so that's your liver is struggling to metabolize and to do. Then when you move down the bowel as such, because don't forget your digestive system is literally from seafood, nose, mouth, all the way through. So there's a lot going on. It's nothing. But for example, we should go to the toilet every time we eat. So we should go to the toilet 3 times a day. Now, I don't think I've ever met anybody that goes to the toilet 3 times a day. But we should be going, I would say the best I've seen and the best that I personally can manage is once a day at the same time every day, which will vary in relation to shifts, I'm assuming, and levels of stress. Yeah. But yeah, that's the theory, is that what goes in at the end of every day should be cleared away and then it comes straight back through again. But yeah, gut problems are huge with stress.
I know that because I've experienced that, especially when I was studying my finals at school. That's when it became very apparent, and I didn't go to the bathroom for 3 weeks and was reliant, I think back then, on colonic irrigation. Went into yachting industry, the same thing, stress completely. It's like your organs just contract. And I was in Portofino, and no, the doctors couldn't speak English, and they put me on pregnancy medication to help with my gut, which was a thick syrup. It was so disgustingly sweet. Like it was so hard to swallow. So that for me, when I notice signs, I can't go to the bathroom. I know this is very personal on air, but I'm happy to talk about it. That
always comes down to this.
Yeah, but it's a red flag. It's a warning sign that there's something going on psychologically that you need to address, or whatever you're consuming.
Absolutely.
I feel like you've got a doctorate in nutrition, do you? Like you've just got like a wealth of knowledge. I am so impressed. I've seen nutritionists before, but I've never come across anyone like you. So yeah, what
get so tongue-tied. Sorry.
How long have you been studying for? Like, yeah,
yeah, when did I start? So I used to be a financial advisor of all things a long time ago. And I'd always had a problem with my food and my body, I suppose, as a youngster. And you just couldn't find anywhere that could help you. So doctors didn't know what to do with you. My mum didn't know what to do with me. So I sort of started learning myself. And then, yeah, I started in 2008 and I qualified with my foundation degree in 2012. And then the great thing is because you just keep learning, I'm not the best nutritionist as in scientifically at all, but we all take different things, don't we, from our careers as we go through it really. And for me, it sounds simple, and a lot of nutritionists get so in the deeper side of it, like the science of it, and they're calculating like 1 of these and 2 of these and 50 grams of that. And to me, that's really boring. This is really important, helping people wake up every day with the energy and the vitality to be who it is that they want to be, and not be dictated and driven and lose their personality in bad nutrition. It seems, it feels difficult, but actually I just think with a bit of knowledge and a bit of, okay, helping people to understand you have a choice. You don't have to eat that to lose weight. You don't have to eat that to give you energy. Take a step back and actually look at in reality. And it can just really add value to people's lives. And that's what I really get a buzz from. And yeah, and it's just trying to be a Miss Know-all, I think, deep down. It's like I always pick, my clients bring me something and I kind of think, why does that happen? So that's how I've learned.
Okay. And then what is your client journey? So if someone wants to do work with you, what journey would you take them on?
So I've created a sort of a webinar really, which is a bit like this. And I've done the 3 ways to improve your metabolic health. So I'm focusing it very much on this metabolic health, about these 3 Ds, the delivery, the detox, and the deficiency. So you can learn there. And that kind of is this is where I'm kind of thrown in a couple of hand grenades and you're a bit like, oh, okay. Then there's a foundation course that I've created, which is 12 lessons. And the idea of that is it covers about 3 or 4 nutritional therapy sessions that we would normally have on a one-to-one. And people can just do it in their own time and they have lifetime access to it. And you just listen to the lessons and they all pretty much go deeper on everything that we spoke about today. And then at the end of that, you're then in a situation where you can kind of go away and just implement it yourself. Or then every half year, I'm doing like a nutritional plan where it's for 6 weeks. I do like a full-on diet plan. But that's more for people that really want to or need to lose weight. That's to really make a step change. So the best part really is around this sort of foundation course area, because there I'm going to really start expanding it out. And like we've touched on, do a lot more about gut, do a lot more about skin, a lot more about energy and that sort of stuff. But slow and low, take it steady and just learn. I'm trying to kind of decipher all the chaos of nutrition and make it really simple for people to understand. That's what I want to do.
And empowering the individual so that they can make their own choices based on the education that you're providing.
Yeah, because the other thing with nutrition that I found when I was learning is it's so there's so many variables to it. So there is never one right answer. Yeah, but there is an accumulation, I suppose, or like you were saying earlier about, do you do this or do you do that? You can't make that choice. But by understanding both, you can kind of work it out and go, well, okay, I'd rather have an apple, but it doesn't need to be organic. Or actually, I'm only ever going to eat organic apples again for the rest of my life. You've got a choice then. But if you're having a diet bar or a diet Coke and you're thinking, oh, it's okay, it hasn't got any calories in, I'm going to lose weight. No, you're going to put on weight and it's the worst thing that you can do. Have a drink of water, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd like to just help people make that choice. I used to call it in clinic, I always used to say, Dad, your chips. I don't know, did you ever have that advert where you are? It was oddly, it was about ketchup. It was about daddy sauce. And there was an advert that used to say, it had this little girl, and they said to you, what's your favorite, daddy or chips? And like the dad was looking at her, and she'd be like, and she'd kind of go, chips.
Yeah.
So that's what I always try and get people to kind of look at two things and go, well, okay, what's the best of, I quite like them both, but which one would you go for, daddy or chips?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good analogy. So in terms of how people can find you, what's your go-to? What's the easiest?
Oh yeah, so on the website, it's just jenadamsuk.com, and on there is a metabolic health age questionnaire. So it's like 10 questions that just ask you these lifestyle questions, and it gives you your metabolic health age based on those questions.
How interesting. I'm going to get my partner to do it tonight.
And that's your daddy and chips, because if you're within 10 years of your existing age, then, you know, a couple of tweaks, you know, a couple of movement, a couple of, you know, enhancing what you're eating will be really benefit. If you're over 10 years of your actual age, seriously, need to look at the quality of the food that you're eating.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I know we could be talking for hours, and that's why I'm very lucky to have you come into our membership TCC Tribe as a guest expert to go a little bit deeper and answer all the questions that hopefully our TCC Tribe members are listening to this, so that they can come prepared and find out more interesting knowledge and get the answers to their questions. I think is so vital and so helpful, as we all want to experience that vitality and that health that you refer to. But sometimes we need a little bit of guidance to get there. So I think you're definitely it.
And the thing I always like to say, you know, you deserve to be healthier. You deserve to like yourself. And it's really important that we do. And it's about putting yourself first, because then, you know, everything else was then a lot not easier, but just makes a lot more sense. We're in a world where it's very easy to sort of do your job and put that first, and then put yourself at the back. And actually, we're better at what we do by putting ourselves first.
So true. What a great way to finish off. Thank you so much, Jen. Really appreciate it. And thanks for your time. If you found that interview really filled with good information, then I would like to tell you a little bit about the CCC Tribe. So as I mentioned in the interview with Jen, she is coming in as a guest expert. We have a guest expert that comes in every single month under a particular pillar that we focus on within our membership, being well-being, personal development, and professional development. So if you are keen to really lift your game and grow from a personal and professional perspective, then do get in touch. Unfortunately, the membership is only open a few times a year. So I best advise you to get on the wait list so you don't miss out on your opportunity for growth. See you next time. Bye.